and welcome back to The Old Fashioned Show. That song was made by Alex Dunlap in the key of C.
Welcome back. We are back, baby. My main man, Chad Hastings, is here sitting in once again. It was so good, we had to do it again. Chad is in the house. Chad, I'm representing my Cedar Park Timberwolves girls basketball team. Played in the state semifinals last night in San Antonio. My niece is a starting point guard there. Oh, no. Well, we lost.
Hey, you know what? Got state semis, you said?
State semifinals, Final Four.
Final Four. Volleyball
Final
clap
Four.
for the Final Four. Well done.
Lost to the number one team in the state in Class 5A, Mansfield Timberview. They entered, I believe, that game, Chad. I believe it was like a 39-1 record. Which I didn't know was possible to play 40 games in a high school season. Seems like an awful lot. But they go ahead and defeat my Wolves 67-45. But shout out to them. I want to make sure I wore my hoodie one more time for my Cedar Park Timberwolves and representing them. Chad?
Yes, sir.
Tell everybody what we got cooking today, man.
Well, first off, I want everybody to know I'm not repping Tennessee today. I wore some Bucko Bruce just for you because I know you can appreciate the Bucko Bruce. I'm wearing the T-shirt that was passed out when Leroy Selman got into the Ring of Honor. So, little bit of that magic going on today. Today we're going to talk Texas football and get some updates from Anwar in terms of what is he hearing about winter workouts. It's one of the most important times of year. It's especially important when these dudes get in early, when the transfers are getting in early. And we're going to talk about two of the most important names on this team right at the top here. We're also going to get into some combine reaction. Our guys, Alex and Cody, are at the combine. They're back on that couch. They're giving us their thoughts from the couch. Coming up a little bit later on, they'll tell you about the big men and how much big money they made yesterday at the combine. But Anwar, I always enjoy checking out the War Room at orangebloods.com. Mm-hmm. For those that do not check it out or have not, you've been thinking about it. You've been, I need to do it. You need to do it. You need to do it. I'm going to throw this up. I'm going to move myself out of the way for a second. That's what you need to do. You see that right there? There's Anwar and there's Orange Bloods. Anwar is part of that War Room crew. They put all their nuggets, all their information, all their thoughts together on a Thursday night every week for you. So it's finally time. Scan that QR code. Get your mother, get your brother, get your crazy dad, get your crazy Uncle Joe, who's a Longhorn freak, the information they need, because we are closing in on spring practice and the Longhorns in the SEC and all that good stuff. So make sure you do all of that very soon and get that taken care of. So last night, Anwar, I read through the War Room like I always do. I think we need to start with two of these transfer receivers because of the group. Remember, two of them are in, one of them's not here yet.
Yeah.
And I actually like the way it balances out, Anwar. The one with the most experience, the one that was there for 3 years at his previous school and led him in everything that you'd want, that's Silas Bolden. But he's not. He's finishing things up at Oregon State academically, and then he's going to be in for ultimately for summer and going to be in for the fall. But Golden and Bond are already here. So let's jump into it. I'll let you start with whichever one jumped out to you, but you reached out to sources and trying to find out what it looks like. Let's talk about these two dudes.
Yeah, so, as you guys know, off-season workouts are occurring at this moment. Spring practice is around the corner. Today is the first day of March, so basically we've got 18 days before the first Longhorn spring practice, which means 18 days. So we're talking about real football again. And so really excited about that. So I'll give you the setup to start with when I've talked to some people, checked in with them this week. And then I'll get into the Golden conversation and, of course, talk about Bond as well. As guys are going through, so we understand this is the winter conditioning portion. So you understand we're not talking about hitting. We're not talking about pads. We're not talking about any of those kind of things. Like, we're talking about workouts. And we're talking about some slightly like on-fieldish things, but not like crazy. Okay, so we understand the pads come on like after several days in the spring. So this is a conditioning portion to get everybody ready for the upcoming season. So I just want to give you one more thing before I get into the receivers. So as you understand, right now, this whole team is under the control of Torrey Becton and the strength and conditioning staff. It's their job to get these guys ready for the upcoming season. AKA, what my sources are telling me is those guys are kicking the players' ass. They are kicking ass and taking names in order to get them ready for SEC play. So this is the tough part. Like, this is that, hey, I just got off the couch. It's January. I got a New Year's resolution. I'm trying to work out, and you are feeling it in January, but you're trying to get to that point where you are 6 and 7 months from now, where it's all automatic. That's where it is. Okay. So as relates to, I want to make sure I have that as a backdrop. So as relates to Matthew Golden, okay, as he comes in, Houston receiver, the thing that I was told about as relates to him is that the word real deal is the word that was used to describe him. They praised his technique, praised his speed, like, and really impressed. And I said, okay, wait. Are we talking like Xavier Worthy, like kind of speed? And then I'm not quite sure I can go with that yet. We still need to see a couple of things as far as when you know the bullets are flying, of course, in the spring practice. But it's pretty darn good. What it is, like, today's the day that Xavier Worthy is going to run in the combine. We're going to find out how fast he really is. But he's a guy with as golden. I think you guys talk to him, Chad? Is it, or was it Bolden that
we talked to Bolden? Yeah, we talked to Bolden on the House Divided show. Ketch and I talked to him. He was very cool to talk to. But we've not talked to Golden.
So is a guy who has been described as a poor man's Xavier Worthy, especially when you look at like how Houston kind of has used him. He's going to be an outside receiver, and that's the way they're going to use him. And so again, in the limited amount of work that they've been able to see about him so far, is so good, right? So, and then again, we'll get to the spring. There's more things to be done. And then as relates to Isaiah Bond, the other receiver who comes in here, the word that was used to me, a specific word used to describe him, called him a dog. I think when you call somebody a dog, that's a good thing, right? Unless they call you a lap dog.
Most of the time. Of the time. There's a couple situations if you're doing sprints and stuff and you say, oh, man, he's a dog. He's falling behind. Maybe. Yeah. But, yeah, I'd say 90% of the time, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, I want to hear he's a dog. Not a lap dog, not a Pomeranian. Probably, no insults to the Pomeranians lovers out there. But the thing that I was told is that he's displayed a lot of his speed, a lot of his athleticism so far. Essentially, what you're saying is, like, these guys pass the test, like the eye test, right, at this moment. But an eye test is, Tom G goes, when a woman calls you a dog, that's not good. That's right. That is right, Tom G.
That's fair.
That is yes. In athletics. By the way, good to see you, Tom G. It's been a long time, by the way. Yeah. I have not seen you in quite a while. I know you've been lurking or not, but good to see you. And so when you're going to have that mix at some point, Chad. You're going to have Bond, you're going to have Golden, you're going to have Jonte Cook. Those guys are probably going to be maybe your top three. But you've also got the Ryan Watts of the world, the Aaron Butlers of the world, DeAndre Moore, Ryan Niblett. You talked about Silas Bolden and how he's going to fit in. But the guys who are on campus right now, at least the transfer guys, already they're seeing kind of an immediate payoff for those guys being on campus.
That's big time. You said Watts, you meant Wingo for Ryan.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was about to say, wait, is he that?
Thank you.
No, you're thinking about that because today is Ryan Watts' day at the Combine for DBs, and today's DB tight end day at the Combine. So it's Watt and Sanders today. You mentioned Xavier Worthy. How about this real quick on a chat? Our man Chris Bennett says, Xavier Worthy just said he thinks he has a real shot at breaking the Combine record for the fastest 40 time, which I think lives at, is it 4.22?
Oh, I'd have to look that up. Someone in chat knows.
Chris Johnson, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Chris Johnson was 4.24, if I'm not mistaken, for years. And then John Ross, right? Yeah. Young man out of Washington. I think he blazed it at 4.22. So Chris Bennett, we appreciate that.
You know what that means? You know what that means, Chad? That means in when he's practiced, whenever they've practiced that, he's gotten it under that. And so that's where that confidence comes from, right? It's like I've been doing this, I've been working out, I've seen that time, like I might be able to do this. And here's the deal, Chad. Here's why that might be correct, and here's why I give some credence to it. We're talking about him running without pads, without a helmet, in very comfortable, sneakers, or cleats, or sneakers. Like we're talking about reducing all that stuff. So you take a layer of clothing off and then tell that guy to run.
Yeah,
he's probably going to run a little bit faster.
You are special fast when we're all assuming it's going to start with a 4.2. Like that. Well, and because we Ketch and I talked about this yesterday on when Ketch mentioned to me yesterday that Prize Picks has numbers posted for 40 times. The number for Murphy and Sweat, we'll get to them, but both their numbers were 5.07, and the way to go was under for Murphy and more for Sweat. But the number for Worthy's 4.3. Like, imagine how fast you have to be for Prize Picks to set the number at 4.3.
That's cooking, baby.
And most people would say, well, do you want to go more than 4.3? And then you're like, yeah, he feels like he'll run slow. So yeah, let's go 4.3, right? Like that 4.32 would somehow be a really slow time. But we'll see what happens with Worthy. That's the big day tomorrow with quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. And that's noon tomorrow. Today's another 2:00 day on NFL Network. So we'll get to the combine stuff. But Anwar, I wanted to get more of your thoughts on how Golden and Bond will fit into this team. Ketch and I have been talking about this. I've heard the discussion amongst you guys. So you describe Golden as an outside receiver. What I've been thinking about, you kind of got to it a little bit, is how are the reps going to be figured out? How does it go? What we had discussed was the idea of Bond being on the field, no doubt, possibly in the slot, of Jonte Cook finding his way on the field because it's for his time to go, and that Silas Bolden, once he shows up, is an outside receiver at Oregon State, and that we thought Golden might be a guy that sort of floats to wherever you need him. But we also have to remember the time element of this, that Silas Bolden's just physically not here right now.
Yeah.
So for you think now both Golden and the coaches are focused on him working at outside. He's strictly going to be an outside guy right now.
Well, here's where I'm at in the conversation, Chad. I have to lean on Sarkeesian because Sarkeesian is the guy who said, I got a bunch of young people who don't have experience. And I've got to bring, and so we needed some veterans in here. I think you're bringing in those veterans for a specific reason, right? That you didn't bring, Chad, they didn't bring in guys on the offensive line and say, like, we need you to compete here. They brought in three guys in a specific room that said, I need you guys in here for a reason. I think so. I hear first of all, I think it's time for Cook to cook. Like, I think we all agree on that. Yeah. But we also know they brought in three dudes with experience, and you don't bring in three dudes with experience if you're expecting 2 out of the 3 not to really get significant playing time. So I think this becomes a thing, especially with a Golden guy, with Golden. And again, we'll see how they all fit in and what the positions end up being. But I think you got to look at Golden as a guy who's going to be, one of the top dogs. I think you have to look at, and again, hopefully we get a depth chart at some point. I know Bond for sure. We've got him in there. So that's where he's at. And so, yes, you would like to ideally see maybe Cook and all those guys on the field, but I know that Sark is looking for experience. And Golden is the guy that checks that experience and box, especially to start off in the spring.
Okay, that's interesting. And I think that's a hell of a foundation that they're that they're going to build up on. The versatility part. You know, Sark's been real big on versatility these last year or so, and he's going to have, Anwar, a great problem. He is going to have a first world college football problem this year, a good one, which is, how do I make everybody happy? How do I get it spread out enough? How do I get the defense freaked out enough? All of that stuff. And it's an interesting head start those two guys get on Silas Bolden. But also, you mentioned Cook. Cook gets a head start on Silas Bolden. I'll keep reminding everybody, 3 years at Oregon State, and he led them in catches, yards, touchdowns. He was their guy. They put him out there on the outside, and that dude is great. I think he has a chance to be really, really impactful. But as you talked about, what do they call Bond? A dog. He's going to be on the field. So for you, right now, are they thinking about it as, when they attack folks, Golden on the outside, Bond on the slot? Have you gotten a sense for whether they like Bond in the slot alone, or do they like Bond all over the place?
Yeah, I haven't gotten a sense of that specifically, at the moment. So I need, again, we'll see what happens, and I'll be able to lay eyes, obviously, on that and see what that looks like when it's all said and done. But showing up late, again, if he hits the ground running, Bolden hits the ground running, in the summer, I mean, that's a great start for him. But like, he's going to come in, he will be behind like that. That is, it will take training camp for him to kind of catch that ground. And, it's, I know Ketch would be highly offended for me to say this, but we have seen guys who have been, kind of a standout. And I want Bolden's better than Tariq Milton. So let me put that thing out there, right? But when a guy does show up, Tariq Milton was the guy that was supposed to be that quote unquote impact guy as well. I think Bolden's better than him, but I'm saying like it's going to take some time for him to just catch up, especially not only to these guys, but we're still talking about Wingo, not Watts. We're still talking about Moore. Like you still got other guys who are going to be coming in addition to, your freshman class that's in there. So it's the path for Bolden. I don't think is as simplistic or easy on the field as it might be as we sit today on March the 1st, right? Let's put that caveat out here. It is March the 1st. There are guys who will have an advantage over him going in there. And someone mentions, Niblett. There's all these other guys who are in the mix that are in there. And so I think Bolden's path, as good as he is, I think his may take a little bit more time.
Yeah, Tom G. Moore, Niblett in that group won't sit another year. There's so much talent that they've got. And Anwar, I think I've found, it hit me as I was thinking about talking about these receivers today. There's a team that I started focusing on. And I think it's interesting to look at. And I'll show you these numbers in a second. I think the goal for Sark is 2020 Alabama. It's the year they won the Natty. He called the plays. And trust me, as a guy who roots for one of the teams on their schedule, Anwar, they were decimating folks. They were decimating you with every option they had. And I remember watching them thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I've seen many teams with that many weapons. So let's take a look real quick at how they spread stuff out, how they got the numbers here. I'll do a little real quick screen share here. Alabama. As I scroll down, Anwar, look at these receiving numbers. Obviously,
let's take ourselves off the screen and make it so you can make that thing a little bit bigger.
Cool. We got that right there. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay.
I'll take the overlay off for a second.
There we go. So if we go down here to receiving, we all can understand that the number one number is going to be a Heisman Trophy winner. There's Smith with 117 catches. But then let's look at the spread. Mechie had 55. Waddle's got 28. That's the three everybody would think of. But look who else. Harris, 43 catches for Najee Harris. Anwar, that's competitive with what JT Sanders had this year. JT, I think, was at 45 catches for the year, something like that. So he turned Najee Harris into the third leading receiver in terms of just catches for Alabama. That's spreading it out to different guys. Tight end, Billingsley got 18. Another tight end, Fortisall, got
Wow.
23.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's Slade Bolden, by the way, kids. Slade Bolden with 24 catches. So that shows you, and look at these averages over here, 11, 11, 16, 10, 21, 17, 16.
Wow.
Oh, my God. Absolutely silly what they were doing with those guys. So when you think about how they were organizing it, how they were doing stuff, that to me, Anwar, is the goal. I think that's their goal, and we're sorry for that overlay getting reset, but y'all jump right in there in the Specs chat. But that's what it is. That's his challenge. And Anwar, those numbers are why I thought he was a good idea. I said from day one to Texas fans, I get that it's not the craziest top of the list hire. I get it. But I've just watched that guy carve up the SEC for a couple years. And from a play calling idea, modern college football standpoint, I liked the idea. And as long as Sark had all the other stuff figured out, I thought that would be there. And we're starting to really see that morph into what it can be. That's where I would tell a Texas fan, calm down on the idea. If you're worried about how the heck's he going to figure this out? How's he going to spread the ball around? How's he going to do this? How's he going to do that? I think you have some confidence he can pull that off, because that's what he did with Mac Jones and all that talent at Alabama, man. Everybody got to eat, Anwar. So I think there's going to be room for big plays for everybody.
You know, when they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, consider that, because I'm absolutely stealing that from my Sunday pulpit. So just so we're clear, I'm going to give you full credit, Chad, for it. I am taking that. I can't say Diddy remix because I don't think I can say Diddy anymore, but I get whatever I get.
It is yours. Here's what I'll do. I will ceremoniously, there you go. Take that Alabama information. Do with it what you will.
Yes, I will definitely. I will be looking up a lot of stuff, and that's incredible. And yeah, he did that, and that was 2020. So that was the COVID year. Is McCard right?
That's correct. That's the COVID year. 1 year after everybody said Joe Burrow and that LSU team was the dumbest thing they'd ever seen, the craziest weaponry they'd ever seen. That might be something else to do, Anwar. Do a side-by-side with them and the 19 team, because those that really follow it would even tell us that year, like, hey, y'all, I know it was COVID and I know it was weird and I know Joe Burrow and that group were flashy. I think Bama might be even better. Like, there were people that thought Steve Sarkeesian might have dialed something up that even surpassed Burrow and LSU, and that was hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And we're talking about in less games, right? So that was a 10-game season.
True.
You know, so we're talking about what that looks like, and obviously there's some more to be there. So, yeah, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world why obviously Texas went after him. The payoff for it is clearly there. That's the thing about Sark, play caller. I mean, the one thing I like, I will say this. You know what I like about it is that there's sometimes we've seen it in the previous years before Sark, where we saw there may be a game, there's 10 receivers that caught a pass, and you're just like, there's a lot of people, right? And you're wondering why was that person even on the field? And Sark has his guy. And first of all, Sark usually has his main top receiver, his top running back, right? And we know Sark prides himself on having 1,000-yard running back. That's a thing for him. And he will make sure he goes after that. He'll make sure he gets that. And then he'll have his top guy, his receiver, and he will just say, stop you. If you can stop him, great. But then he also, like you said, he also finds the ways to get the ball and into the guys of the other hands, And that in itself, where we start talking about, like you said, these receivers here this year, where we're talking about the Goldens, we're talking about Bonds, and we start asking ourselves the question, right, Chad? How does all these guys eat? It's like your stats are right there. Sarkeesian is good enough in the kitchen to make sure that everybody gets a healthy amount and a healthy portion of food, and not a lot of guys will be left out.
Yeah, and the other good news, I guess, if you're a Texas fan, think about those numbers. We just showed you two different tight ends that got enough catches where you noticed them. Mm-hmm. He just got JT Sanders, and I would argue he didn't use Sanders enough. but he got him enough attention combined with just the ability that he may be the second guy off the board. And if he shows up today at the combine and goes really freaky, I think he might. Does he get into some first round conversation? Like, is it Bowers? And then quickly people are thinking about Jatavian Sanders. But then the Najee Harris number, I think, is big. 43 catches for Najee Harris. Because see, Anwar, when you get into the reason Bama was so stupid that year was you were trying to figure out, like, oh, holy hell, Smith's unbelievable. He might be a Heisman guy. Yep. Well, what about Mechie? Dude, have you seen the way Mechie is? Yep. Okay. All right. Well, now what about the other? Wait a minute. Now the Matt Waddle guy is incredible. He's lightning fast. Yep. Okay. We got all those guys figured out. Okay, good. We're there. Two things they would kill you with once you had that figured out. Seam routes with tight ends and the freaking wheels with the running backs. And I didn't think he threw enough wheels to Bijan. And I didn't think he threw enough wheels to Roshan. I thought Texas could have run wheel routes every fifth play and gotten 40-yard hunks last year if they really wanted to. That's where he gets really dangerous, Anwar. If he keeps that idea stuff going, that's when he gets you. That is when, when we see him thinking it through and really throwing all that football at you, that's when it gets dangerous. So that's where you get to. We haven't even said Baxter's name. We haven't said Blue's name. But if you remember it from last year, you get everything else dealt with. Hey, we got the receivers. Yeah. Whew, God, that guy used to be at Oregon State, man. He's badass. Oh my God, is that Golden? Okay, we got that figured out. What about this tight end? Dude, Niblack's good. We got him. Our linebacker's badass. Okay, cool. How about Jaden Blue on a wheel? Oh, crap, I forgot about that. Where is he? He's 50 yards down the field in the end zone. Yeah. So that's the thing, too. If I'm a Texas fan, I just love he keeps saying versatility. If this offensive line is what we think it could be, good Lord, are they going to be a versatile football team? And you got to trust him to find all those guys.
Yeah, and I think, again, you what you said is the thing that I always think about is offensive line. I look and we saw this offseason, we saw Sarkeesian go into the portal for lots of different things. We saw him go in the defensive line. We saw them go in there for the secondary position. We saw obviously at the receiver position, tight end position, right? We don't see anything on that offensive line year after year. that is not a position that they're like, now we're good. We got our guys. We are we're good here. You guys go over there. Kyle Flood is like, I don't need to make any calls. We are good over here. And and like you said, if that line is as good as we believe it is, which Kelvin Banks, should be all that he should be, in addition to the other people, the big Cam Williams, everybody else that's in the mix over here for the playing time, that will be, the starters, and give those guys the opportunities. And by the way, we're saying all this, Chad, without even talking about who the quarterback is. Like, we haven't even mentioned that. Right. Oh, yeah, by the way, you do have a quarterback who should have the ability to get these guys the ball and get these guys open, who would be year 3 in the system. Yeah. That we didn't even mention that guy and what he'd be able to do. Totally different thing. And last thing on that one, we saw Quinn be able to get a guy like Adonai Mitchell, who ends up being, first-year guy, and find an instant chemistry with him.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, in addition to, and again, another reason I would definitely send people to the war room, there's a lot of great notes on so many things this week. But another thing, Anwar, I know that you guys have been hearing about is the development of Quinn Ewers, the continued development in multiple ways from Quinn Ewers. Talk a little bit about that, because we've heard that vocal leadership thing. They're trying to get him to be even better at that, but also just that it's another year of development, another year of confidence. And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are already getting reports from the from the winter workouts here that Quinn Ewers is looking even more polished.
Yeah, and again, again, it's February at this moment. Well, March 1st at this moment. February when the came out. Leap year, by the way. But hearing more good things, about Quinn, which you should. Right? I think that's kind of a natural thing. But hearing more good things, and someone had described it to me as just smoother. than it was, previous years. They said that like last year, when I was told, like it wasn't like it was bad last year. It just seemed like it's smooth, more at ease, more natural, just polished, just kind of that finished product, making everything look easy. Another person told me that Ewers seems to be more mature in every area than he was in previous years. And so the biggest thing that I just hear that they want is just a little bit more vocal leadership out of him. Be a guy there. They're trying to develop leaders in that locker room, and they want him to be one of those guys. And it's a folk. And then look, when you have kids, like for instance, I have a son, my oldest son, Max, very talented, right? He's just not a talker. He just doesn't waste words. And and so if someone told my son, and it's good, just using a personal example, my son's a keeper, and they keep telling him, "You're phenomenal as a keeper, but we need you to talk more to the guys on the field." But he's just such a natural, non-talker, introverted kind of kid. Yeah. It's harder for him to do those things. Guys like that, guys like Quinn, who are much higher level than my 11-year-old who's so we're clear. Yeah. But I'm just saying I can understand getting that guy to like come out and say, all right, we're this, and it's not the rah-rah, I need you to be fired up on the sidelines, Tim Tebow kind of person, but it's just the person that, hey, I'm the commander in chief here. That's what they want him to do. That's what they want him to work on. But from everything else on the field, also still being a leader by example. The early reviews of what Quinn is looking like in year 3. Again, it should be real positive for Longhorn fans that he's not only picking up where he's left off, he's actually taking it up to the next level, and there's that growing excitement about what he's going to be able to do.
Yeah, it's big time news. This just in. Anwar says Max will be better than Quinn.
He's probably a better keeper than him at this moment.
Hey, that we know. That we know for sure. Great reports coming in on the winter workouts. Again, check out orangebloods.com for the War Room every Thursday night. All the latest on that, and a lot of good stuff from Alex and Cody, who are in Indianapolis covering the Combine. We're going to get some thoughts from them. Real quick, Anwar, why don't you tell the folks about Eric and what he can do for them?
My main man, El Presidente, Eric Torres, has got you covered. If you are looking for a home in the DFW area, Dallas, Fort Worth, you're thinking about moving, thinking about buying, thinking about selling, my main man, El Presidente, he has got you covered. That QR code right there, you hit him up. He's going to take care of you. He's going to make sure that nobody takes advantage of you in any area that you're looking for. He's a Longhorn fan, but he doesn't discriminate. He's got kids that go to TCU. He's got another kid that's looking at Texas Tech. He is spreading his wealth all around the state of Texas. So help him out. Eric Torres, Eric Sells Homes DFW. Last time, Eric Sells Homes DFW. Check him out. That's my guy. Take that thing off your face.
There it is. That's right. All right. So one quick chat comment here that I thought was good, Anwar, just to clarify right here. For chat is sounding like a Longhorn fan. I'm not sure if I'd go that far, Rodolfo. What I'm telling you is what I think this team can be, and that's what I've done for years. But here's the one I wanted to get to. Chad acts like Sark is playing Madden. Rex, he needs to be. He needs to be. Always remember what I say about Sark. When y'all start to think, man, he's being too cute. He's not being cute enough. Don't ever tell yourself that Sark needs to be less cute. That's the trap that Texas fans got into with Greg Davis, in my opinion. It was always, that Greg Davis, he's too cute. Nope, he wasn't cute enough. He didn't do it enough. Be who you are. Think who you are. Go after. When the Sark offense bogs down, Anwar, to me, it is not because he got too fancy. It's because he forgot to be fancy. So I think that's something to pay attention to. Think about the situations, Longhorn fans. Think about the moments when you get frustrated with Sarkeesian. 4 plays from the 12 for all the marbles to go play for everything. Were those 4 plays badass, well thought out, motion before the play, trying to confuse nope, they weren't. They weren't. They got really simplistic, or it appeared like there wasn't really a plan. That's not too cute. That's not leaning into your cuteness. So that's where I always go with it, Anwar. And let me tell you, seeing it from the business end in 2020, because he played my team and a whole bunch of others, man, was he cute in 2020. That's one of the cutest football teams I've ever seen. Sark's cute can kick their ass. Keep saying it to yourself, Longhorn fans. Sark's cute can kick their ass.
Chad, you don't tell Steph Curry to stop shooting threes. You don't like, hey man, you're trying to be too cute over here, trying to shoot your 3-pointers, man. No, you tell that guy, you keep shooting, because that's what you do. That's what you're great at. Keep shooting, shoot. And Sark should obviously do his thing. Remember, it reminds me of those Steve Spurrier days, right? When back in Florida, not South Carolina Spurrier. That was really not a good version. But that version where it was like, this is what we do, and we're going to continue to do it until we score 70 points. And remember what Spurrier said? When people complain about how they would run up the score, he goes, our job is to score points. Their job is to prevent us from scoring points.
Yeah.
They do a better job.
And by the way, Anwar, speaking of points, I'm glad you brought it up. We all know they were undefeated. These are the final scores in 2020. Let me know if this sounds cute enough for you. And you tell me when you hear about a close one-score game. Here we go. 38-19, 52-24, 63-48, 41-24, 48-17 at Tennessee, by the way, 41-0. Didn't have to go to Baton Rouge because it was postponed. 63-3.
Who was that? Who was that again?
That was Kentucky. Yeah. And by the way, just so we know, the Aggies, it was 52-24, just so y'all think I wasn't going to say that out loud. They whipped my Aggies to that degree. 42-13 over Auburn. 55-17 once they got to Baton Rouge. 52-3 over the Hogs. Here's one, 52-46, one close game. In the SEC title game, 52-46, they beat Florida. Then they beat Notre Dame 31-14. And then they won the Natty by 4 touchdowns, 52-24. Folks, that's what it sounds like when Sark's cute football thoughts swarm the other team. When you get overwhelmed by cuteness, that's how much you can get your ass kicked. That's what he did. Damn. Yeah. You want to know why he got the job? That's why he got the job.
That'll qualify you, buddy. Hey, let me look at this. Right. Oh, really? When can you start?
I'm telling you, Anwar, it's like Bama, Brady and the Patriots, Aaron Rodgers and the Packers sometimes. They're not teams I root for. In fact, most of the times they're teams I root very much against. But when it's that impressive, you just kind of have to stand back in awe and enjoy it. So I remember 2020 was before we knew that Texas and Oklahoma were going to be in the SEC.
Yeah.
I remember having the thought as an A&M fan, get this guy away from my team. Get this guy away from my team and my conference and let me breathe for a little bit. Now, obviously, it's come back around. And look, I want Texas and Texas A&M to play every year. So if this is what it takes, I'm in. But now, Aggies, Bama fans, Georgia fans, Florida fans, all of them may have to deal with what Sark did to that conference back then. This has that feel to it where it could look like that. If it all comes together for this team, the weaponry is really silly.
Whew, man, I thank you, Chad. You gave me a Sunday column, baby. I appreciate you, Chad. You can come on this show anytime.
No problem.
Anytime you want to come on, let's do it.
No problem. All right. So let's. You want to get into a little combine?
Let's talk a little combine here. That's going on.
Okay, so Alex and Cody are in Indy talking combine, and the two big focuses are really big focuses in Murphy and Sweat. So we're going to hear them talk about each one, and we'll talk about some of what we saw as well. So we're going to start with them talking about Tavondre, correct?
Yes, that's how the conversation is going to get started. You ready?
Here we go.
And so, do you want to start with the testing stuff, and we'll just talk about the?
I think we have to start with the elephant in the room, and that is the elephant in the room who weighed in at a good weight, 366, but told us that our jaws were going to be on the floor after the testing. And
T'Vondre Sweat did not leave our jaws on the floor. He weighed in at what?
366.
366. So just like we talked
Which is
about
perfect.
yesterday, get down to what you said your playing weight was during the 2023 season. There weren't any issues with T'Vondre Sweat this year, with people saying he wore down through games, with people saying that he took plays off. That was not an issue one bit with him. Pad level, nothing. Through games, it was always really, really good. Now, we're talking about a guy that's only, playing half the snaps, and that is probably how Texas is going to handle these things moving forward, right? They like to rotate in their interior defensive line guys. But Sweat yesterday said it was going to be a big – look, here's the thing. He ran a 5.26, and a 5.26 in the 40 is – not great. It's kind of, it's kind of bad, but it's bad in the sense that we're talking about, was it a 5.26 or a 5.27?
I think it was 5.27. I was about to check that. But I think it was
5.27. He weighs 366 pounds, dude, and you look on Twitter and you got like guys like Robert Griffin, RG3, right? You got all the rest of them saying, dude, a 5.26 at that weight, if you size adjust it, is like a 4.26 for a DB.
Yep.
For that being said, I don't think that Robert Griffin III understands the exact way to size adjust 40 times, right? I don't think it's like a DB running a 4.26. But that's a whole different thing about analytics. Regardless,
it's impressive, but it's not what we expect.
Look, man, Sweat today and the Prize Picks had Sweat today. It's Flex Friday. Are we giving some Flex Friday Prize Picks? Let's do that in a minute.
Okay.
Hold on, let me say this real quick. Let me just jump in here, Chad. Before they go too off topic on the couch. The thing that you have to remember in the conversation of the 5.27, okay, this is, and I talked to some NFL people yesterday as well. It's 5.27 under the best conditions you're ever gonna have, which is you got a fresh start, you've got no pads on. You've got your favorite cleats on. You don't have a helmet on. You don't have anything on. So it's the best it's ever going to be. So you've got to tell yourself that when that thing occurs, when you're actually in a game, that 5.27, maybe that's not going to be 5.27 in a game. It's going to be slower in a game. It also is going to be slower, Chad, as the game progresses, as you take in more poundings we're talking about second quarter and third quarter and fourth quarter. How do you keep that up? So the number, you can say like 366. Well, that's okay. That's, he ran it for 366. 366, still kind of big, Chad. Like there's no way of getting around that. That's still a big person. And yes, he's doing it for a big person. But if you look at it, Chad, you look at the numbers overall, the numbers were okay.
Right.
But it wasn't, he didn't blow it out the park the way that he had predicted that he would.
Yeah, it was not silly freaky. And for him to say everybody was gonna gawk at the 40, that's probably something he shouldn't have done. Probably shouldn't have thrown that out. Probably should have just let it happen. I agree with you. That 1.18 on the 10-yard split, they'd like that number to come down a little bit. The vertical, like as much as people were, oh my God, a man that size, a 25, or now officially a 26-inch vertical. I wasn't blown away by it. Anwar, we've seen big freaks like that go higher than that on the vert. We have 8.2 on the broad. Now, if you really stop and think about taking 366 pounds and 8.2 broad jumping it, I'll always point out with the broad jump, if people haven't watched it, remember they make them stick and hold that landing. Don't ever forget that about the broad jump. It is one of the craziest things. And Anwar, I'll admit, nobody gets excited about a 10-foot broad jumper more than I do? Nobody. I'll still go back. What was my cat's name at UConn that went to the Cowboys? Jones. Was it not Brandon Jones? What was that guy's name?
I don't know.
The DB. Jones. Somebody's gonna
Pac-Man?
No. Somebody's going to put it in the chat. His last name is Jones. He played for the Cowboys for a few years. He's got the record, and I think it's a 12-3.
Mm-hmm.
It still takes my breath away to this day. I could watch it now, and it would freak me out. It's just Byron Jones. Thank you, Blake, in the chat. I appreciate you. Yes, Byron Jones was his name. It is still one of the freakiest, cool things I've ever seen. But I agree with you, Anwar, and I agree with the guys. It was good. It could have been even better. Did Tavondre make himself a little money? Probably. But there's some polish that can still happen there. So you got to wonder where, I thought in the drills he looked pretty good at times. I didn't think he was super standout freaky, but I certainly didn't think he hurt himself.
Yeah, and I think what people have to understand, and this in the conversation that we're having here, and I saw someone saying, in the chat, Blake Bryant says, who cares about size? Just watch the film. You have the film, Blake, just so we're clear, is while it's good, you have to understand you're now going against NFL offensive linemen. Okay, so now we're talking about you. Now you have to face those kind of guys day in and day out, who, by the way, are pretty freaky strong, are also pretty freaky fast. You don't see a ton of guys at that 366, 370, 380-ish kind of thing. Sure, if someone runs up the A gap, great. But let's just be honest, at 5'2", you ain't running down too many people. 5'27", you ain't running down anybody else. All the team has to do is just run side to side on you, and they have the advantage. So anyway, let's finish what the guys had to say. But just wanted to kind of jump in on that one.
Because the Prize Picks has combine stuff up right now as far as 40 times. And there's some locks out there. He moved well for a guy his size, but there's that qualifier, right, that I just said, for a guy his size. And we were just hoping that maybe he would come in, and the sports books had him yesterday to 5.1 as far as what the over-under was for his 40 time. I thought it seemed bold. I did not take it.
I took it under a couple times. Got bit in the butt.
Yep. I told you it was bad because Byron Murphy was the same at 5.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing was I took him with Murphy and another player, and they both hit, and we're sitting there hoping Sweat runs sub 5, and it was not. So
yeah. After that first run, Cody's like, maybe he can shave like a whole 0.4 of a second off it from no, but so look, it wasn't a vertical jump of 25 inches. Yeah, not the best. A broad jump of 8'4", which technically I hate to say this because it makes it sound super bad. And for Sweat, this was not super bad, but that's 4th percentile historically amongst defensive tackles. But it doesn't take into none of this stuff is size adjusted, right? Sweat did fine. Did he come to Indy and blow things up and have the nuclear explosion type of performance that he was saying he might have and alluding to the media that he might have? No, it wasn't.
He didn't put himself in the first round conversation, which was the big thing. I think that there was a possibility that if he did run a sub 5 and he dominated everything and he tested 50th percentile and above, there was conversations of round 1. And now I think
but I also think, Cody, that you and I were in this. We're sort of in the echo chamber of the NFL draft media, and certainly also being like fantasy football guys too, that have so many friends and so many smart people and analysts that we work alongside who are the analytics types who say, without understanding the nuance, that this kind of bad, right, as far as his percentiles versus his peers. It doesn't take into account that this guy's an Outland Trophy winner, and what he put on tape was really good. His Senior Bowl was completely dominant. So I'm not willing to go to the point of saying Tavondre Sweat's out of the first round conversation. What I'm willing to go to is say he didn't put himself
into it
firmly into the first round conversations, where it's like this is If he goes first round, he goes first round. If a team falls in love with him, a team falls in love.
But that's
with
what it's going to take. It's not
Yep.
like I mocked him 23 to Houston, betting on a super performance, and like he didn't justify that. So it's going to be more of a fringe thing than what we talk about generally is there's 32 first round picks, but there's not 32 graded first round prospects. And he kind of took himself, I think, out of the 32.
Absolutely did that.
Yeah. So that's the thing for T'Vondre Sweat.
As far as Byron Murphy, runs a 4.87 official, and just man, what? And you can check that for me for
I
sure.
think it
But
was 4.88, but same shit.
it's very, very, very good.
Yeah.
And
he was dominant. Him and Braden Fisk from Florida State were clear cut the two best defensive linemen performers today on the field.
we were sitting there in Lucas Oil watching these guys, and we're like, dude, Fiskey and Murphy, they just move in a different way. They look like linebackers out there. The way that like they do the wave drill, right? The wave drill where they get down on the ground and do like one of these kind of Green Bay sort of up down kind of things, and then the coach sends the ball this way, and they send the ball this way, and then they send it that way. And so you got to go side to side, and you got to backpedal. You got to come to them, and then they send you to sprint one way or the other. You see no wasted motion.
Footwork is just so crisp.
So, like, you look at Byron Murphy doing those drills, and those are the kinds of things that teams look at and just say, dude, I mean, we're talking about a guy here. And we said, man, what did he weigh in at 290?
297. He was
297.
11 pounds lower than his website listed.
So he lost a little bit of weight to be able to move like this. And we said yesterday when we met with him for the media availabilities that he looked. I mean, it's like a dynamo. He's just like, you know, like they're wearing these combine like compression shirts and stuff, and you're just like the guy looks like a superhero. Yep. It's crazy. Good day for Byron Murphy for sure. He's cemented. He's a consensus first round guy. He'll go in the top 18 picks of the draft.
Jalen.
All right, that's probably enough. That's enough of that.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and it was, you know, obviously a big time day for Murphy. I think it was impressive, Anwar. If you're a Texas fan watching that yesterday, I thought this could happen, and then it happened. That logo popping up on the screen multiple times was big. It showed you even though Sweat maybe wasn't the perfect version of what you thought he could be, they liked him. Daniel Jeremiah and Davis and all those guys that are breaking it down, they liked them both. And it was two different ways to skin the cat, right? This is one version of a D tackle that you got to worry about. And here's another version of a D tackle you got to worry about. They both looked really good. Completely agree with Alex, man. The testing for Murphy was awesome. He looked great. The body movement was great. The drill, the 4-bag drill was amazing for him. I dig all the drills they do for the defensive line because I don't think because Anwar, there's some drills for some positions that I think are useless and some But I don't think any of those are wasted. I'm a believer in the combine. These people in the chat saying making a D tackle run the 40 doesn't make any sense. It's useless. I disagree. I think it is important to watch. I'm not saying it's important they go 40 yards, but I always enjoy it. And watching Murphy, and here's the difference I would tell somebody. I'll give you a house divided comparison. Go watch Byron Murphy run the 40, then pull up my man McKinley Jackson from A&M. You look at how those two trucks drag it 40 yards in a different way. McKinley, you can feel his wheels spinning at the beginning. You can just feel it. In the first 10 yards, it feels like it's this. The first 10 yards for Byron Murphy, it felt like his claws were already in the ground. And you can see it like that. That's what I love about the combine. And Murphy was great. That double ring drill thing that they do, Anwar, where they pick up the towel and put it back down. Murphy looked great on that. Sweat ran that one pretty well, too. There was a lot of guys that stood out, but Murphy made himself some money yesterday. They were both just really, really good. And now we'll see what those other guys do. But now the question now it's going to be who takes that shot on T'Vondre Sweat. How high up is it going to be? And then like Alex is talking about, Anwar, I think there's teams up as high as 11, 12, 13 that are going to start thinking about Byron Murphy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple of things. Like what Byron Murphy did was just confirm to everybody who already has him high on their draft board, that's our guy. Like, that's the guy that I'm going to go. These teams go in So we understand each other because I did the NFL for years, right? So I can tell you how this process goes. You for the most part, so what happens is this is real simple. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Throughout the regular season of the NFL, the coaches and the GMs, they're just kind of doing their thing. The GMs are listening to the scouting directors. It really does start to kind of the rubber meets the road after the season, where all of a sudden the coaches of the teams, they start breaking down the film. And then that's when the draft board really begins. Your draft board gets set usually sometime by February or so. That's where it is. Everything you hear before that is just hearsay from area scouts who don't have any say-so. And so by the time they go to the draft itself, these teams already have their draft board set. Now, the only thing you can do at the combine is mess it up. Like that's all. That's all you can really do is just mess it up in the interview. Maybe you fail a drug test, and then really then you have to have a history of failing drug tests, because even then, But just that's all you can really do is just mess it up at that point. And so I don't think T'Vondre Sweat messed up anything, to be honest with you. But I also don't think Byron Murphy messed up anything. I think Byron Murphy showed guys this is why I'm a top 15 pick. And I go back to the thing that you're a Bucks guy, and I go back to the thing that John Gruden told me many years ago before the draft, which is when we're talking about the draft, he goes, whenever you see an athletic 300-pound man moving, you draft him. Because when you see the average 300-pound person, they are not smooth, right? You just think about what you see when you go out on Lake Travis or whatever the case may be. When you see 300 pounds, it's not good. So when you see someone who's athletic, like a Byron Murphy at 300 pounds, you grab them. That's why those guys go early on the defensive side of the ball. That's why they go early on the offensive side of the ball. I can find myself a nice little receiver who can run a 4.4 any round. I can't find that kind of guy with Murphy. So yes, Murphy's a guy from all he did was check all the boxes, and now he can figure out, okay, what kind of suit am I going to wear to Detroit for the draft? Yeah. Because I know where I'm going to be.
Yeah, no doubt. And I like this word too from Rhett. Murphy is so smooth for a guy his size. Absolutely, Rhett. I agree with you. Another thing about the combine, Anwar, it is that you're comparing them. These NFL guys are getting to compare them side by side. Murphy runs the rep. Then another dude runs the rep. Then another guy runs the rep. And you get to see that comparison. He was super smooth. By the way, did you check out that Fisk cat from Florida State?
No.
That dude is also in that same weight area with Murphy, right around that 300. That dude looks so smooth. Jaden Fisk, I want to say is his name. The dude from Michigan that they call the mutant. He looked great. But there's just guys that'll stand out to you, and when you see them on draft boards, it's going to make sense. So those guys did really well, especially Murphy, and we'll see how early he goes, but we are talking top 15 kind of stuff. And Anwar, again, back to how this circles back around to Texas football itself. 11 guys getting invited to the combine, and look how they're spread out. You got those two guys yesterday. We haven't even talked about Jalen Ford. I'll be honest, I haven't gotten to see a lot of Jalen's workout from yesterday, but then today it's Watts and Sanders. Tomorrow, you've got Xavier Worthy, you've got Adonai Mitchell, you've got Jonathan Brooks, all in
Keelan Robinson.
And you're right, Keelan Robinson,
Jordan Whittington, those guys should be
right?
Yeah.
They're all in show-off day. Show-off day is awesome. Saturday. And supposedly Bo Nix is going to throw. And supposedly Michael Penix is going to throw. So everybody will focus on quarterbacks, but then we're going to get to see those guys. And then even on Sunday, when the offensive linemen finish it, it's Christian Jones' opportunity to continue that momentum that he got in Mobile. So if you're a Texas fan, I know there have been years where you didn't have a guy drafted, or you didn't have enough invited to the combine, and you had to kind of sit back and mumble and grumble a little bit. This is one of those combines where you get to bow your chest out a little bit and say, yep, our guys are all over this thing because our team was what it was.
Yes. And the last thing I'll say on that is, and then if you're Steve Sarkeesian and that staff, you're just looking at all the recruits that are out there. And look, the knock was, and Chad, you always would know this, is that why should you go to Texas? You're not going to play the SEC. You're probably not going to go pro. And what is Steve Sarkeesian and where the Texas is at now? Hey, by the way, we're in the SEC, and look at all those guys. They're all going to go pro. All of a sudden, the knock that people to be able to use against Texas in recruiting for years has finally been eliminated.
Yep, that's it. By the way, Anwar, I got a good round number for you. But before that, 122 days from now, Texas is in the SEC. A mere 122. But here's your round number. 50 days till the spring game today. The 5-0.
This baby smile. This
Come
baby.
on.
I feel like Ray Charles right now. I'm just so happy, baby.
Oh, Ray. I'm always happy when I think about Ray Charles. That's always a good idea.
You just put a smile on my face.
I like it. I like it.
Thanks, Chad, man. Today's been awesome. I appreciate you filling in over the past couple of days. I don't even feel like you filled in. I just felt like you fit in. So I thank you so much for gracing it, my presence here. You're coming back at noon? We got a noon show today, Chad?
Going to be back. Yeah, House Divided today at noon with myself and Mr. Ketchum. And then also what we're going to do is we'll take that Alex and Cody video that we played you part of, and we're going to get that to our wonderful tech people, and they'll get it out to you a little later on. So you'll get that full report from Alex and Cody on day one of the combine, and be looking for more of it throughout the weekend. Because like I just pointed out, there's Longhorns all over this combine, and Alex and Cody are getting to see it right there at field level in Indianapolis. So keep it, keep your eyes peeled. OrangeBloods.com, Orange Bloods Live. We'll get you all kinds of good stuff.
All right, guys. Hey, enjoy your weekend. Remember what I always say, live each day like it was your last. And Chad, what's that thing that you always like to say when the show is over?
That would be take care of yourself, take care of whatever you need to on a Friday, and